And we're back with another one. We were on a little 2-week vacation, at least on my behalf. I'll start off with an apology. I apologize for missing the last 2. Relatively good excuse or reason, however you want to define that.
No excuses.
1, wife going into labor. 2, baby was here. Son has arrived. He is healthy. Mom is recovering. We're very, very excited. And how are you doing over there, Aimee?
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
Jeremy has officially been gone for 2 weeks. So that's been different. Yep.
Are you sad?
Yeah, I am sad. Made me realize I really do appreciate him.
All that marriage talk and study and prayer and fasting and examination is paying off. So I'm glad.
Yep, we're here now and things are good. We've been going up to see him the last, 2 weekends. We're not going to go this coming up weekend because, I think he needs to study.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we'd been going and spending like 2 days over there.
Very good. So anybody who doesn't know, I'm Derek. I'm her big brother.
I'm Aimee. I'm the little sister.
And we decided to start this podcast because we wanted to document meaningful questions that our kids might ask one day, especially my son is now here. She has her son here and one son on the way. Mm-hmm. And we don't know how long we'll be able to be around. But if they ask meaningful questions, we want to be able to document in a time capsule format in a podcast setting what our answers might be to these deep, meaningful questions if they ever want to know their parents' perspective.
Me being 24 years old.
Me being 39 as of this past week on Friday. So I figured we'd continue on using the ChatGPT gave us 100 questions to use or 120 questions to use. But we will add a bonus question that's not considered one of the 120. And that bonus question is, what was being a new parent like? I can go first while maybe you brainstorm, maybe as you think about my response and maybe ask me any questions you have about my experience. One thing I would say is being a new parent. Did you ever play any video games where you create your own character, your own being?
Yeah, like The Sims?
Yes. Could you change the way they looked as well?
Yeah. You create their whole
everything. Hair, eyebrows, cheeks,
face shape,
lips,
eyes,
teeth, nose, complexion.
Yeah.
So when those games came out initially, and not even those names, like let's say an NBA Live 1998, like in the 90s video games, you'd create your own character. You wouldn't have a ton of options regarding what you would look like. You might be able to pick a mustache or bald or a short haircut. But then as time would go forward, it's interesting, as you would create a new character, you would be able to choose braids or a fro or a different lineup or different design in different parts of your head. And then, of course, with the most updated, you actually have to pay in-game money for your own haircut and all that. Anyway, I'm saying all of it because being born in 85, playing video games in the 90s, and then seeing games evolve and have a whole bunch of more options, I think is relevant to the new parent perspective, because with being a new dad, I think one thing that I realized is there's so many things I love about my son. So things that I didn't even know to think about. So examples that even things that I love about my son that I've never loved about another human being. Mm-hmm. So, simple things you mentioned actually in the family group messages, but the way he stretches. Mm-hmm. I've never loved somebody the way they stretched their arms out. Yeah. But then my son's here, and all of a sudden I love the way he stretches and the way he yawns. Like I've never loved somebody yawning before.
Yeah.
Or the way he blinks, the way his eyes move, the way his hand opens and closes. It's like such a random thing to love about a human being, but I find myself loving that. And so I love his toes and his fingers and his nails, and I love his elbows and I love his shoulders, and I love watching him sleep. I love him breathing. So all of these things, I feel like, to make that connection with the analogy, is back in the 90s, you only had a few options of what you can choose on a character that you were building. Again, mustache or no mustache, haircut or bald, or again, a little bit of hair or bald. Then as you move forward, you had so many more options to choose and how you would customize your character. So I feel like it's similar. If you would have asked me what I love about Angelita, I might have said, her smile, her dimples, her hair. I love her complexion. I love her personality, her attitude, her spirituality, her attitude, all these things I might have listed. but there would have been I would say probably a limit to the things that I would list. But then almost with my son, it's almost like I find a new thing every day that I think I love about him, right? So, and it's his faces and his smiles and the way he moves his mouth and the way he smells and then even like me thinking about changing a diaper, it's like, oh dang, like what if he's potty trained at 3 years old? Then he has whatever 5,000 or 6,000 diapers to go, and I only get to change his diaper for 5,000 to 6,000 times, and then it's over. Like this one season is over, and I think being an older dad has made me think about, like, I often think about seasons, even with my nephews and nieces. Is when I'm thinking about them, I understand I'm only going to be able to pick them up for a certain period of time when it's normal.
Yeah.
Like I know this season, like even like with Mila, it's almost, who's going to be 6 this month. It's almost unusual for me to pick her up now as opposed to picking up her brother Jackson, who's 3. Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm just, as an older man, I think I'm aware of the finite component to a season. Hey, this season is a very, very, very temporary.
Yeah.
And then the season goes away and it's never done again. Like there's this season of he sleeps on my chest while we're reclining on the couch downstairs.
Yeah.
That season will be over very, very quickly.
Yeah, very quickly. It's funny you bring that up. I had actually made a post not too long ago on my story, and it was because Kalel had fallen asleep on my chest. Like for the first time in months, he hasn't done that since he was maybe, less than 6 months old. Now he's already older than a year. So it's like it had been months since he'd done that, and he fell asleep on my chest. And I remember like those first couple of weeks, he was asleep on my chest all day, every day, like that was all he did. And then now for us to be here and it's like, oh man, like he never really does that anymore. Like it's sadness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget if you and I have discussed this idea of, some people talk about, there is a moment when it's the last time you ever pick up your kid. Like there is like that one, like there's one point where mom was like, the last time she picked me up, and then it was never again for the rest of our lives, right?
Yeah.
But it's the interesting thing about that as parents, as we see that coming, because I don't know if that was ever discussed for them in the same way. Like, hey, there was a one moment that's coming when it's the last time he's gonna sleep on my chest. It's the last diaper I'm gonna change. It's the last time I'm gonna hold him in 2 of my hands, right?
Yeah.
So he's only this size for so long where he fits in my 2 hands. So anyway, all that to say is every good thing anybody ever said to me about being a dad or being a parent has been true, and then more so, I think. So I'm certainly enjoying the blessing of being a dad.
I think you and I had even had the conversation, like, I've been meaning to ask you too, like, was it like life-changing the moment you met him? Or was it kind of just like flowing in?
Because my wife did a C-section, I met him as the doctor, because the process for us at least was there was the curtain, and then they were doing an operation on the other side. So I was with my wife with her face and her head on this side of it, right? So then when the baby or son was taken out, he's picked up so we could see, and the curtain was lower so we could see him. One, I didn't know it was gonna be that fast. Everything like super went ahead. So he was born a month early from his due date of September 21st. So anyway, we thought we ended up going into the hospital two weeks ago on Tuesday. Then we were like, okay, maybe we'll end up having him on Saturday. But it was like next day, Wednesday, oh, he's coming,
Yeah.
So, or they're taking him out at least. All of that to say is I don't think it was instantaneous. Like, so maybe there's 3 definitions of love I think about, and it wasn't those 3 that struck me. It wasn't I think part of my Christian upbringing, my Christian development has made it so that I understand sacrifice. That there's love that's sacrifice. If we're talking like biblically, there's a love that's kindness and patience. Those are like decision oriented loves. The third love I think is a passionate care about someone. All those 3 things I feel like I've experienced already, and it wasn't like those weren't amplified. But I think this 4th category of the number of things I could like about somebody I like all of a sudden, it went from one day to the next. Again, I keep going back to the analogy of in the 90s, creating a character, you have 3 or maybe 3 options of how you could customize them. And then if you just flash forward 20 years, then you have 200,
Yeah.
like things that you could customize about somebody and creating them. So I think instantaneously, no, but as I learned more about him and observed more, I was like, oh, I like that. So it wasn't like instant. So maybe it wasn't instantaneous 200 things. It was like, okay, first day, there's 50 things that I like about him that I didn't know I could like about a person. And the next day, another 50. And the more I think about it, there's like another whole cascade, a flood of things that I love about him. So yeah, 1 is sacrifice, 2 is whatever patience, and then 3 is like a feeling, and 4 is like categorical things you could love about somebody. So I would say it would be more developing those long list of categories of what I love about him.
Yeah, that makes sense.
How was it for you again? Remind me.
For me, and especially for me and Jeremy, like I remember right after Khalil was born, I didn't feel like it was a big, giant change. I guess also me being the mom too. Like, I don't know, because our mom said, like the second you have your baby, everything changes. Like you feel so different. And I didn't feel super different. It felt like, I have a baby now. But like to think about the way that I felt right in that moment versus how I feel right now, I do. Like I love everything about Khalil. I love him so much. Like, everything he does, even sometimes when he's being bad.
Yeah.
But like all those things, like I really do enjoy him. So I think about it like it has been gradual for me. Like it felt like meeting an old friend for me.
Deep.
Meeting somebody that I've known and talked to and thought about for my entire life, and then meeting him, it was like, oh, you're here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I would say with my wife, what it's done is I think it's opened up. So back to that list of qualities, it's going, I love all these things about her before. Son is born. Now there's a list of other things I value, appreciate, and respect about her as mom. She's feeding my son. All of a sudden, like there's a value and appreciation that goes up. There's a love that goes up because I'm witnessing how she cares for our son, and that's enhancing, I think, my, again, love, value, appreciation, respect for her because of what I see her doing for somebody that I love so much. And maybe like, so I suppose I'm kind of making the argument. I don't know if I love him. Like, I feel like there's a part of me that's developed to be a sacrificial person, being willing to sacrifice a lot for people. So I feel like I've been through that phase years back. But there's a part of, because as I mentioned, there's so many categories of him that I love. Like now that anybody does anything good for him, it's that much more special. And I already felt some of that, like with the baby shower. But it was different when it went from a potential person, or again, he was a person inside, but I don't really know all the things I love about him yet.
Yeah.
So a potential person with all the categories that I love, to an actual person with all the categories that I love.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, even I think thinking about witnessing characteristics about him, I was wondering, like, when would I see, like, I've been jotting down like how one trope, especially in the Christian world, is you're going to learn so much about you and God in being a father. And I was like, okay, again, I often hear tropes. I don't always agree with them. I'm skeptical about them. But to go through it and go, oh, okay, yeah, there's a lot of things I could see parallels that me and God, between me and my son. Mm-hmm. Example, I'm trying to put a shirt on, and he's just like resistant. Like, all of a sudden his bicep is like clenched. And he's like not wanting to, me to straighten up his arm so I can get it through the hole, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, why is he being so difficult for something good I'm trying to do for him?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, hi, I did that with God all the time. Like God's probably like, this could have been so much easier, son, if you would have just done it my way and listened to me and been in tune with me and like go along with what I'm trying to do in your life. Instead, you clenched your life, or you clenched this area of your being, and you made this difficult for you, which it didn't have to be. Mm-hmm. So there's a number of things I'm seeing there, like parallel between how he different things, and it's good and bad. It's like another example is with being. So I wasn't sure at what point would he even be in the room alone ever, right? Like especially when he was still inside mama, right? When my wife was still pregnant with him, I was like, wow, parents actually leave their kids alone. Again, monitors or sound monitors, or again now we have video monitors, but then like on this side of it, again I saw that change for me. So which was he's trying to go to sleep. But like downstairs, we have our ice maker, our refrigerator, our air conditioner, our washer and dryer, all these things that are making noises, and then you go, okay, well, maybe I'll put him in his nursery, which is more the sound, the light is clouded, and we have the monitor that not only monitors in daytime, but it has the night vision, which is like crazy. Again,
it automatically switches and everything.
Yeah. So then it's interesting because I don't know what he thinks, but it's potentially he thinks that he's all alone, but I'm like, no, I'm still watching you. You know what I'm saying? Like even when the room is completely dark, but that camera's there, I'm still watching you, even when you don't even realize that. You don't realize that I'm watching you, but I'm watching you through this camera that has night vision.
Yeah.
And then so getting back to God, it's like, oh, even when I don't realize he's like there with me and watching me and caring about me, he's there even when I don't realize it. So anyway, I have like a whole file on my phone of like parallels between God the Father and in me the Father, and how that's been.
Wow. Crazy to think about.
Yeah.
So you have been leaving him alone?
Yeah. No. Again,
every night.
No, not every night, but being okay with. So the way we've been doing it, at least up to now, is we both sleep downstairs on the couch, and then he sleeps in his bassinet next to us, and then if he makes noise or whatever, then one of us would get up and care for him, take care of him, change his diaper, feed him. Whatever, comfort him, reassure him, and then kind of just repeat that process over and over again. But like the thing about it is, again, with my wife going through the procedure of the C-section, and then us again, she just delivered a baby, and then she's processing some medical things that popped up. Then it's like, okay, her sleep is important too. So then, is it more comfortable for her to sleep on the recliners downstairs, sleep in her bedroom upstairs, and if she's going to sleep downstairs, I'm going to go upstairs with him. Now, if he needs his sleep too, what's the best place for me to position him so that he could get good rest and
safe
and safe. So I'm like, okay, in his own crib, in his own room that has blackout curtains, that he could be completely dark and get his sleep as well, so he could get a 3 hours, a sleep. I'm like,
stretch rather than.
So again, like for me, there was almost a judgment I had toward. I was like, how could y'all leave the kid alone that soon? But I'm like, okay, on this side of it, I go, yeah, that makes a little bit more sense. Of it's not a selfish thing of let me get rid of this kid and put him by himself. It's a very much, let me take care of my wife who's downstairs, eliminate our interactions from waking her up, and then let me also put him in a position where he can actually get the most amount of rest and rejuvenate.
Yeah.
So what do you think? You judge?
I've always stayed with Kalal. I mean, I don't think I used my baby monitor for months, like at least. And not for like him to sleep. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just because I've always like preferred him to just sleep with me, like sleep on me. I guess, yeah, like especially at the beginning, I did put him down, but I was always like right there in the room with him.
Yeah.
But it does make sense too. Like I guess I just didn't prioritize my sleep either. Like, and it was hard, especially like that Kalal would not take a bottle. So it was like he wouldn't take a bottle, so nobody else could feed him. Like I had to be the one getting up every night. I had to be the one, feeding him all day, every day. So majority of the time, me and him would just lay together all day and sleep at the same time and wake up, and then I'd feed him, and just those things for like at least the first 2 months, at least, So to me, but I have gotten to a point, later on where. But it still freaked Jeremy out. Like I would put him to sleep in the bedroom, have the camera on, and then I'd go like wash dishes or something.
Yeah.
And then he'd be like, "Where is he?" And I'm like, "Well, he's asleep in the room." He's like, "Well, is he okay? Is he near? Is he near anything? Is anything like got him?" And I'm like, "No, he's fine." And then he's like, "Can you hear him on that thing? Like how good is it?" He's worried too. So
yeah.
I think it's just a normal parent thing, just in general, to be worried. But yeah, like.
That's a good thing to keep going. Go ahead.
It's like even now, like so now Kalal, he's already a year old. He's okay. I have his rooms set up to where There's there's nothing on the ground that he could put in his mouth. There's things are really low to the ground. There's no shelves or anything that he could fall over. So if I won't leave him for a long time, but if I have to run outside to the car or something, or I have to run to the restroom, I'll run to the restroom and come right back inside, and I'm very confident that he's okay.
Yeah.
Just things like that.
Right. And it makes you kind of be aware of a bunch of things. Like so did you ever mess with like a wipe warmer? It kind of warms up the wipe.
No, I didn't mess with them.
So we have one, and then so the question is like, so it warms them up, but then like depending on how soon you go from the wipe warmer to actually wiping him, as opposed to change open a diaper, or clean it, bundle his hands, depending if you're using the shirt to bundle his hands, so he's not touching.
You clip it together up here.
Yeah. So then, but then like depending on the amount of time you go from the wipe warmer to actually wiping him, it goes back cold, right?
Yeah.
But I was kind of joking too that there's an element of a father trying to raise a son that you don't want it to be like extra
comfort,
like extra comfort on everything. Like, hey, life is tough, and I need to help him to be aware of the struggle that comes with life.
That's what I was thinking too. Like, I had seen something where it was like, when your kids are asleep, vacuum. So it's like, since Khalil was younger, like I've always tried to like make a lot of noise when he's asleep so that he learns how to sleep through things.
Yeah.
So that has made it easier. But now he's to the point where anytime we're anywhere, he wants to just hang out, and he can't focus because he's like, oh, new people are here. We're in a new location. Like, let's explore. Let's look around, instead of like, no, take a nap. Like, you're tired. But yeah.
Yeah. Yes. But also the worry thing is big too. As a new dad, I think there's like, I knew this, but then like you know at a different level of how fragile he is. Like, anybody who ever holds him could kill him. You know what I'm saying? Like, like because he's 7 pounds, whatever. Like, it's like grabbing a 7 pound weight, and like it can be. 7 pounds can be thrown to a wall effortlessly, and it's like it makes me like the idea that anybody ever lets their kid be carried by anybody is like a crazy thing, and especially like you're aware of how clumsy people can be, like in general in a sport or with their own stuff, and how they trip, and people trip, people fall, people slip, people drop stuff. Those aren't like unusual things. It's like somebody dropping a fork in the kitchen. Like we wouldn't even have to go back weeks or even months. It's like it probably happened earlier today. Like, how many people dropped a utensil in the kitchen just today? And it's like, how do parents ever let their kids have someone else carry them? It's like, again, fear, worry.
But it makes like, okay, so I don't know if I had told you, but like one day, I think Jeremy was at the gym or something, and Khalil was asleep, and I was sitting in the living room, and I had seen like that story where like the mom left her baby at home when she went on like vacation for like 10 days or something.
Yeah, you did say that. Yeah.
And I was like, I was sitting at home, and like, I was there completely sober, right? And I'm reading this story, and I just start like crying,
Yeah.
and I felt like those things never like affected me as hard, because like you don't think about it like when you don't have kids, but when you have kids, you're holding your child, and you're like, how could anybody take like he's, Jeremy will hold him up in the air like this and be like, he can't do anything. Like he can't come down if he doesn't want to. He can't tell me, he doesn't want to be up there. He just has to stay like, wherever I hold him. And he's like, that's so crazy. Like Jeremy says it, I think about it, and I'm like, yeah, I know. And then you think about like all these bad things that have happened, and it just hurts your heart that much more.
Yes.
It makes things much more like intense and difficult just to hear.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yeah, we had in our little neighborhood area, one of the unfortunate things that took place was, I think it was a family, if I remember, it was a husband, wife, 3 kids. They got home, from whatever sports day on Saturday, and then the parents went inside. 2 of the kids went inside, and one of them was left in the car. And unfortunately, again, in San Antonio heat, he passed away, and it's like, and it's again having one. There's so much to do all the time. You're losing sleep and all this. So like, the empathy in me, like for the parents going through it, it's like, is it impossible to imagine them being so worn out and so tired, thinking they delegated maybe to one of the kids to get their little brother, and get him out of the car seat and bring him in or whatever. And then they walked in, laid on the couch, passed out, and then like their child is passed away. And it's like, to me, it's not difficult to imagine how that could happen. It's not difficult to imagine how difficult the marriage would be, because they blame, maybe they blame each other, or it's what if this or what if that, and there's so much grief and heartache and pain. And but those thoughts go through my mind whenever we're getting out of the car and getting them out of the car seat. And it's like, with one, it's like, okay, I ain't forgetting you. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's like all of these challenges that come up, are the worries of things that could happen.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. All kinds, and then you hear all kinds of stories, right? And then you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Do you think public school, private school, homeschool? Do you already have those thoughts?
Yeah, so I think that school for elementary age is good. And then I'm thinking more along the lines of homeschool. I want to do like Montessori school for like the younger ages and up to like 4th grade, and then maybe 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade be homeschooled. And that way for high school, they can decide whether or not they want to go to high school and, do the whole high school experience thing. Or if they just want to be homeschooled, graduate faster, go to college. So just because I feel like those 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, those are like what is it called? Like prominent bullying years. And, I want to protect my son, and both of them. I want to protect my kids, and I don't want them to be, struggling.
And do you think those are prominent bullying years in general, or specifically that's when you experienced it the most, or that's when you have whatever your anecdotes of people around you that have experienced it the most?
Yeah,
because I remember it like in kindergarten.
Yeah, to me, I think that a lot of people around me, I think that's, people around me have told me a lot more, stories about that time. And especially, like, I feel like that's when you're old enough to finally start understanding. Like, I don't know, kindergarten sounds crazy to me, but I do remember, like, some stuff in elementary, but for the most part, it's like, wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But I feel like you can do stuff in middle school that like genuinely hurts you as a person.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, like in every school shooting, like kind of hits different. And it's like, like you just don't want to trust anybody,
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's where that extra shelter, helicopter, like overbearing parent like kind of creeps up inside. And it's like, okay, then it's like, how do you replicate social interactions? Is it sports? Are they extra sports and all the other things that they could do if they're not in a traditional school? And then you agree with everything they're learning, and then when the influences that people have on them, which it's really interesting.
Makes it hard to think about. Yeah. Luckily we have a few years to think about it.
Yeah.
If anything, all of our kids are going to be pretty much around the same age. Maybe we could just group them together and all teach
I know, right? So like what? So Khalil would be in this group.
the oldest.
Khalil would be the oldest. Then we have Salacia, Corzin, your son, who we haven't named on the podcast yet, who's coming in December.
That's 4.
So we could have a little
class there.
Yeah. They get social interaction.
Yeah. They could meet 3 times a week. I don't know how preschool works. I don't know if it's every day.
Yeah, I've heard some people who have been persuaded on the homeschool side, because like the criticism sometimes is that they're not as socially developed, and they're kind of socially awkward. Then but some people talk about, well, some of that potentially could be learned, but one of the reason that people like homeschooling is in some ways they could get an advance in their career if they kind of know what they might want to get into.
Yeah, I do.
So like there's people, so the number of specialties, again, whether it's extra piano classes or extra language classes or
Yeah.
extra sports or extra computer stuff.
That's what I've heard too. Like they finish all their work Monday and Tuesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday they do whatever specific niche they have. They do like just music, or they swim, or they go to whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
More time to enjoy their passions.
Yeah. Exactly. That does give me hope. I think it gives me hope in general, but it also gives me hope of like us having a cluster of kids that we can
bring together.
That we bring together, and then we kind of,
especially with how close all of us have already been. It's not like we're gonna be all of a sudden hanging out with other people, but I feel like the 5 of us as siblings are already close. And then, Christiana, she's already close with really us too, because she's our niece, she's Diamond's daughter. So I feel like all of us are already, like, we hang out plenty. We get together, like, as a family plenty. So I feel like bringing our kids together isn't going to be, like, so hard,
That is a question I was thinking about, is there's a closeness that I have with my cousins, and I was wondering, like, what the projection would be for the cousins that we're bringing into the world, like them. And then, like, I'm probably, from a cousin perspective, probably closest to Jeremy.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's special. Yet there's a other closeness. Naturally, there's a closeness that I had with Jetty growing up as my brother, who were just we're sleeping in the same room every day, and we're playing all kinds of sports and video games and all these things. And there's just other levels to it. But it has made me wonder, and had a sort of a hope and a vision that our kids and the cousins they form will be much more closer than the cousins that were around me and I had. What is your perspective on that? Because I also don't know about your cousins with your dad's side of the family as well.
That's what I'm thinking too. Like my cousin, she has a baby. My other cousin just had a baby, and my cousin's also pregnant. So like my aunt's daughter, who already has a daughter, who's a year older than Kalel, they just found out they're pregnant. They're gonna, well, not just found out, but they just they're gonna have a baby too. So it's like, and my cousin, Betty's son, he had a baby like 3 months ago also. So it's like, but I don't feel as close, with I feel like I'm not as close with their parents. Does that make sense? So like, I'm not super close with my cousin for us to do like a play date with our kids.
Right.
Like, I mean, we can, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't see her during holidays. I don't see my cousin during holidays. Like either one of my cousins during holidays, during birthdays, for all these things. I don't see them very often. So it's like for me to think like, oh, like we could get our kids together. It's a lot more like, we'll get our kids together maybe once in 6 months, not like regularly.
Right. Which it does make me think about, like, it's an odd comparison to make, but to begin to ask about and consider the closeness of parents, and that often dictating how close the cousins are. So, like, example would be considering how close mom is to her siblings.
Yeah.
Like, they're not necessarily, there's not like animosity, but animosity doesn't mean that they're regularly spending time together.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, the amount, maybe I use myself as an example. The amount that I try to be supportive and show up for whatever my nieces and nephews, and I try to be there for my siblings as well, is at a different level than I maybe recall my mom connecting with her siblings. So in other words, I think I can imagine that our sibling set of 5 under our mom is closer than the 7 sibling set under grandma.
Yeah.
Fair? Or what?
Yeah, no, definitely fair. And especially all of us that have kids. I feel like we've been real good about being there for everybody's kids, even when we didn't have kids. Like, even when I didn't have kids, I was always close with Diamond's kids for sure, and then making an effort to do anything that would. But obviously, Jared and Jeanette had their kids around pandemic time, so that's a little harder. But since then, I feel like we make more of an effort. Yeah, I feel like it is harder for Jared and Jeanette, their kids, because they were more like pandemic era. So it was like a whole 2 years where we couldn't really establish time to like get close.
Yeah.
So that's another one too. But I do feel like we've made an effort more to be in each other's kids' lives.
Right. And I think if there's a connection there between us being closer with one another will lead to the cousins who come from us being closer with one another, then there is a potential, to be a lot closer then.
Especially like doing like family things, like, going to the beach together, going camping together, having parties, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think that makes a huge difference also. Like, but also like, my dad's family, there's more Jehovah. So they don't do birthdays. They don't do, all of those things also. So it's like, you really have to make an effort to get together on other days. So, and I think that's what makes it hard too.
I didn't think about that factor. That makes sense though. That makes sense. I think I often forget that they don't do birthday parties.
Birthday parties or like even dinners, like we'll do at least a dinner. Get together for birthday. You don't do that. You don't do, any of that. You might do like, they might do like, oh, let's go watch a game over here. But, there's no specific date on that. Yeah. So it's like.
Right. What are the chances that you become a Jehovah's Witness at some point in your life?
Very slim to none.
Slim to none. Okay. Cool. Just curious.
Yeah. No, not very likely.
We got a bot from Twitch in the chat.
A Twitch bot.
Twitch bot. Okay. So, all right. Let's go to our question number 14 in our list of 120 questions our kids might ask us one day. Question number 14 is, how did you approach achieving your goals and ambitions? You want to go first or you want me to take it?
I can go first.
Go ahead.
I'm still working on it. Oh, well, let's say like this. How did I achieve? Well, I think it's, and I know that this might sound like crazy, but I think it's constantly focusing and working towards that. Like, you would be surprised. So let's say you have different goals and ambitions for every part of your life, right? So like, am I where I want to be exactly like in my career? I feel like I'm doing just fine where I'm at. Like I help run the businesses that we have now. I do all these kinds of things. I'm in charge of stuff. I take charge. I'm in a great position right now as far as that goes. Is that where I want to be? Probably not. But like, let's say like as far as like my marriage or my relationship, like how did I achieve those? So like, obviously I've known Jeremy for 10 years plus, however, right? So before me and him got married, before we established, actually deciding to settle down and have a relationship with each other, I always knew that I wanted to be with him. So it was like, I kind of made sure that there was always room for that in my life. So I think like if you have goals and ambitions, you have to make sure that there's a place in your life for those things. So like if you want to be, I don't know, a swimmer, or you want to be an astronaut, or you want to do, you have to make sure that at any point in time, if that comes along, you're going to make sure that you like prioritize that and go full force towards that. So I think it's like constantly keeping it in the back of your mind that this is what you're moving towards.
Got you.
So I think that's it.
I got you. Yeah, it is an interesting question because, again, if it's coming from the kids or for the kids, and some part of the question is, hey, how do we do it? But then also what principles that we use might apply to them. Also, I think a question behind the question, maybe the fancy phrase is a presupposition inside the question is, what are your goals and your ambitions? It's interesting. I'll quote an interview I did 4 years ago. It was an attorney from South Africa. We had met over Instagram. I interviewed her. Very interesting interview. And one thing that stood out from, I think, her biography that she sent me, she said her greatest accomplishment in life is being a wife and mother. And it hit me, one, because she's a lawyer, educated, prestigious role in the community. And I was like, people don't really speak like that.
Yeah.
Like, the greatest accomplishment of my life is position as wife, position as mother.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it stayed with me for 4 years. And especially being a father now, it's made me pull out the scales and go, what accomplishment would I compare fatherhood to? Is there anything that's comparable? Is there anything that makes the scale tip in one direction or another? And for me, it's like, do I align with actually her perspective? With my greatest accomplishment is being a father. Greatest thing that I've done is being a father. And then, so then taking fatherhood, and again, I'm 14 days in to being father, and then comparing it to book writing. All right, I'm a father, and then I wrote my first book. And there's emotions in separate places. Like, there's emotions of picking up the box of books that first came in when I wrote my first book. There was emotions going to go pick it up and seeing it, holding it in my hands. But like, there's not even a comparison. Okay, you got 1 book, 2 book, 3 books, or speaking in front of audiences, making them laugh, or making them cry, or giving goosebumps to them, or telling stories, and all of these things. Oh, what about speaking at this person's funeral, speaking at that person's wedding, doing this toast as a best man, doing this toast as the best man? All of these accomplishments that might be stacked up, and you go, okay, you added all of them up. Yeah, I am aligned with Suhavna Ramdeen, I believe her name is. And she said, like, her greatest accomplishment is actually just being a mom. And I think I will echo that. I think my greatest accomplishment is being a dad. And to answer that question in that way, I can give you an approach of, hey, how did I write my first book? Well, you shut off all the noise. That means you eliminate things that take the most amount of your time so you can do what you actually want to do, so you can accomplish what you want to accomplish. Example, if you just do a time assessment on your life and you go, hey, where's my time actually being spent? Am I spending 4 hours a day on social media? And if you calculate, there's been studies that have been done to calculate how much time is wasted whenever you get off task, like you go check your phone, and it's like 15, 20 minutes every single time you get off task. So for some people, it could be more. That means, from one angle, is every time you get interrupted, you're adding at least 20 minutes. If you're somebody who struggles with attention even more than that, maybe it's even an hour. You're adding an hour to the task that could have been accomplished in a certain amount of time.
I wonder if I know anybody like that.
So if you eliminate the distractions, I imagine a book is 120 hours. So it's a matter of, how can I get 120 hours of, what do you say? Oh.
Congrats on the greatest accomplishment, brother.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, real deal, real deal. Appreciate all the encouragement. So all of that to say, it's so crazy that it's the greatest accomplishment, because so many people have already done the accomplishment of being a dad. So anyway, all that to say is I could give tips to my son about how to achieve goals, and some of it is just eliminating things that distract you.
Yeah.
And it would be so much further ahead than many other people who can't eliminate things that distract them. But if the question is about achieving the goals or achievements or accomplishments regarding being a dad, it was being in tune with God and letting God kind of dictate the storyline. Like, I wanted to get to a point where the vision on my side and my wife's side was to have a child. And so we waited for that, which again, for us, it was 11 years before we 11 years of being married before we had the vision to have a child. And so that's where we're at now. And I think it's allowing God to dictate the timing of the goal and the timing of the accomplishments, and not being so controlling, which I certainly can be.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I'm glad you realized that.
Indeed. Any other things on goals and ambitions?
No.
All right, number 15. What role did friends play in your life, and how did you maintain those relationships?
Ooh.
Me or you? Me or you? Me or you?
You can go.
Okay. I've said this before. Maybe I'll say it again, a little rehash. Because of the intensity of the meetings that I was a part of with when our church was I'm almost on the hyper side of meetings. It'll be Tuesday meetings, Wednesday meetings, sometimes Friday meetings, sometimes Sunday meetings, and then if you're in a leadership group, then maybe it's a couple of more meetings on top of that. So there was the structured element of meeting on a extra regular basis that dictated closeness to relationships. But the thing about it is sometimes the people who you went to church with in the past stop going to church with you. My buddy B. Rye in the chat, we probably had spent like years not really seeing each other in regular meetings we were going to. But again, when I had the gender reveal, my brother showed up for me. So I think like it is interesting to go through life in to answer the part of the question is what role do friends play in your life. I think it's everything. I think my friends teach me so much about how to even love in different areas of life. I remember the first time one of my friends came to see our house for the first time, and his excitement just walking around our house made me go, oh, next time I'm in somebody else's house that they just got, I'm going to be this excited. I'm going to be this hype because he's watching, this friend, his name is Julian Banks, watching his excitement and enthusiasm just walking around my house and his amazement made me go, oh, I'm going to be hyped like that. Or at our baby shower, there's a Bethany who again knitted our that I guess a blanket or and then the hat or
it was like a set of something.
Yeah,
cute.
Like next level as far as thoughtfulness, planning, what the gift could be to like for our son. Like again, the only person that at least that I know of that handmade a gift for our son.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. So it's very, very special. So it taught me something. Now does that mean I'm gonna hand knit something for somebody else? I don't think so. But it gives you a glimpse of what it could be. Another example would be
I'm gonna learn to knit and I'm gonna make like 20, and then, and then I'm gonna give them to everybody for their birthdays and be like,
I'm the only one.
Yep.
So the one at our baby shower, a friend showed up and gave us 2 pairs of like Air Force Ones and then a pair of Jordans for our son. And one, it made me cry, but it was like, oh snap. In my head, sometimes like I could be narrow-minded, and the narrow-mindedness of me was like, oh, you only could bring to the baby shower gifts that are on the registry. They went, no. Like, okay, we can actually get baby shoes for Derek's son, and it was like, and it hit me. Not that I go to baby showers often, and I often try to avoid them. Mm-hmm. But if I were ever to go, it made me think, oh, you could actually think outside the box about what might be a special gift for somebody's son, somebody's daughter, and go do that. And you don't even know the impact it could have. Again, I'm talking about it 2-3 months later, and I probably talk about it for years after this, as far as how special it was. But I think my friends have taught me how to love. My friends have taught me how to be generous. They've taught me how to be accountable and responsible. And categorically, I'm talking everybody from a friend perspective. It's almost like everybody who's in my church who's not my family is a friend category. So like they're just so responsible for any good that's in me. And any bad, I'll just take credit for it.
Yeah. Yep.
That brought me to the trigger of when somebody's giving an award speech and they're saying, thank you for helping me become the person that I am. And I'm like, I know human nature. You're not all good. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that worst part of you that you're saying, thank you for helping me become the person that I am. You're thanking your mom for that. Like, okay, so you thank anyway. I like the delineation of thanking them for the good parts of you.
Yeah.
And any bad parts of you, take ownership for yourself. Nobody did that but you. In my own twisted perspective.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I think it's interesting, being married, having a child. Now it's, hey, how do you maintain those relationships? In some ways, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I think if we don't have the regular meeting of church stuff, especially in like our doctor was like 3 months away from crowds. It's like, oh dang, like 3 months away from church potentially. It's a different perspective than just if I go to church, I'll see enough friends there to connect. But phone calls I think are important. I think the friend that like there's I have different groups, text groups as well that I try to stay in touch with and ask people for prayers at different parts of my life. Those are different ways that I try to maintain the relationships. But it's difficult. All right. You want to respond? Do you want to have your own response? What do you want?
Yeah. Oh, I was
This is a
thinking.
callback to making amends. Step 9, Alcoholics Anonymous.
Well, anyways, let's go to, let's see. I really don't feel like I have that many friends, like if we're saying that. But like, okay, it really, really, like, I feel like I'm closest and I'm most friends with, like, my nieces and my sister, and obviously with Jeremy, like, I feel like, and, like my siblings, I feel like we're more friends. So it's like, if to say, what role do y'all play in my life? Let's see, like, y'all are, always there for me, I'm able to lean on y'all, especially like when I'm frustrated, like I can always call and talk to somebody, like calling somebody to talk to. Like, I think those are the kinds of roles that they play for me. Oh, side note, I'm not going to do a big old baby shower for new baby. We are going to just do a baby sprinkle. And guys are only allowed to come if the children have to come so that they can watch the children. So it's only women.
Nice.
There will be a separate room for children.
Okay, let's cry. let me have a moment of crying because of my buddy B. Rye dropping. You want to read it out?
You've helped mold the core of who I am as a person. Regardless of the time past, you'll always be my brother.
Oof.
I feel like you'll always be my brother too.
You did the guy thing as far as making a deep moment funny. No, man, that means a lot. It does. It does. I think I'll say this. I think I certainly have moments where I think I wish I could have been a better friend. And I think,
yeah, for sure. I feel like that too.
and then I think in some ways I built my life in a way where it was spread very, very thin across friendships. And it's like, and I think I look back and I go, oh, like those people who have like the same friends their whole life, there's part of me that has an envy for them. I'm like, oh, wow, how did y'all? And I know, like, again, church world has made me shift again. If somebody comes into our new small group, or if I'm reaching out to somebody new and trying to bring them in, like, anyway, I say all that because hearing, B. Rye's words like that about helping mold the core of somebody is like a crazy compliment. But thank you. It really builds me up because I absolutely have times when I'm insecure about not being a better friend to people that have been a roommate of mine, like you. So
I've been a bad friend too. But I don't like to think about that. I just let that go. No, yeah, but I do think like I have done. That's probably why I don't have a whole lot of friendships now. And like I've said this over and over and over again. Like that goes into my whole like I run away from situations. Like literally for years, like my whole life, I've always just run away from situations. Like I didn't like it in elementary school, so I switched elementary schools. I wasn't really happy in middle school, so I went to a high school on the other side of town. I wasn't really happy in high school, so I just stopped. Like I just made it to where I had my classes in the morning and I left all day. Like it was like all these things. Like for me was like I just was a runner, so it made it hard for me to care about like relationships with my friends because I've never been the kind of person to like stick it out and actually make things work with my friends, which I mean that's probably why like I am super close to Christiana and Shanice, who are my nieces, like because I can't run from them, like I mean I can run for a little while, I can go away and do my own thing, but after a while like I'm always gonna like they're always gonna be there, so it's like they're my friends. And they're not like, they're not judgmental. They're close with me. They're somebody like they're people that I can call where I can vent and I can feel safe and I can feel like they're going to be on my side. And I think the important thing, like, I do have like one or two other friends, and the way that I've maintained those relationships is to not bring them into the messier sides of like my life transitions, you know, like I feel like I've gone through more like selfish times, more like messy times where I'm going and I'm being super reckless, and I feel like the way that I've kept the friends that I have is by not involving them in my life during those periods of time. So I think but the role that they play has always been the same, like, you know, being a comfort, being there for me, and being just a, what is it called, like in it, like, let's say if like life is like floating in the water, they're like a floaty for me to stop and take a break, and stop swimming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deep.
Then keep going.
Which is, I appreciate you saying that about not bringing them into the messiness, because I also think about people who were incidentally there inside with me with the messiness. And you want to read that?
Yeah. Erin says, friendships, especially as adults, require effort, and we all tend to use the busy life excuse.
Hey, that's real. It's real.
Yeah.
I think so.
Everyone's busy. It's one, you have to prioritize when you're going to hang out with your friends.
So one of the things that I've noticed are a common denominator is people who are close to me. They were with me during some drama or some messiness, or like, and it's kind of interesting because sometimes I feel like it wasn't me or them. Like I don't know. It's almost like God had put people in my life and kind of had set that thing up. So one of my guys, Keem, he was there when I found out like cousin committed suicide, right? And then it's like he was there to like reassure, comfort, build up, and be with. And it's like, again, like when you have roommates that are guys, you know, we're not like hugging on each, you know, like hugging each other, but it's like somebody put their arm around you like during that time when you're like processing something like that in the family. It's such a dramatic time. But I look back on that moment, which was whatever, I was 21, 22, 23. So this is whatever, 16, 17, 18 years ago.
I was 9, so.
And so you're 24?
Yeah. So it's 15.
Yeah, so 15 years ago, and I think about, what do I remember about that? I remember my friend putting his arm around me. That we didn't really like have our arm around each other like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember him being there for me in a moment like that, praying. Or another moment where we were just hanging out with the family. He was with me on my dad's side of the family, and then my aunt's like, hey, I want you to see this police report of how your dad passed, and it seems suspect that it wasn't suicide, maybe it was homicide. And she shows her a police report. But like all that happened when he was over there with me, and then like so my aunt, she's crying, and I'm crying, and Keem is right there in the room. We're all like, and I didn't plan. It wasn't my plan for her to tell me that, for him to be there. But it's like life happened while we like huge moments happen in my life, with friends around me. Yeah, and then it was like a bonding moment for life.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. But man, I've had like those kinds of experiences, and it just I guess, I don't know, like I said, like I'm a runner. So like people who were there with me during certain times, like they just make me uncomfortable. Like those moments made me uncomfortable, the situation made me uncomfortable. I don't like thinking about it, so I just would run away. So it's like, ooh. Does that make me crazy? Like, does that make me horrible that I'm like, ew, you were there during the bad time? Well, no, I don't want to be around you anymore.
I absolutely have moments, though, like when I'm like, so what, I'm 20.
I'm so cringe at myself.
Okay, so this is 2024, which means there was like a 20-year, whatever, what's it called? 20 years since I graduated high school. What is it called? Reunion. Yeah. So there's a reunion, and I'm like, I ain't going to that. Like in the idea... It was fear oriented. It was fear like, ooh, like, what did people think of me or remember? It's very, very ego, like trying to reconcile, like, do I want to go somewhere where I have bad memories of bad decisions I made when I was in high school? And it's like, again, it's overly egotistical to make it about yourself, and people, like, it's so egotistical to think, all 20 years people have been thinking about the bad things I did in high school. Like, nobody's thinking about me.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, but in my head, it's for sure people are thinking about me and not wanting to be in a situation where people remember bad things about me.
I think about it just like, ugh. Like, I think about it too sometimes. Like I'm a couple years away from like my 10-year reunion, right? But I think about it and I'm like, I don't want to see anybody again. Like, and then on top of that, I'm like who's gonna go really? Like, is anybody that I was even friends with gonna be there? Like, there are so many people that I went to school with that I don't even really know who they were. So it's like,
Ooh, the worst experience ever is when you see a friend from middle school as an adult.
you recognize them?
And then they recognize you. Naturally, I have facial blindness, so I don't recognize almost anybody. But he said, "Oh yeah, we were really close friends in 8th grade. Spent a night at each other's house close." And I was like, "Oh, what high school did you go to?" And he's like, "Highlands, like with you." It's like, what kind of jerk was I that I didn't even realize that a friend who was close to me in 8th grade, went to high school with me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Also, you have facial blindness, so like you're gonna go to your reunion, you'd be like, "Who are all these people?"
Yeah.
No, I do think so. Like, I'm super duper good at remembering people's names. So like, I get so embarrassed, like too, that I remember everybody's name, and like people don't always remember me. And I don't know if it's like just a habit or like, I could be watching a show and like I'll be watching it with somebody else who watches the show all the time. And then I'll be like, oh, like this person and this person on the show, how they were doing this. And they're like, which one is that? And I'm like, that's their names, that's
Yeah.
and it's like, I don't know. I just wouldn't want to be like, oh yeah, you're so and so. And then they're like, oh, what was your name again?
Right.
Then I'm going to be like, oh, sorry. Like, but it's just because I'm good with names.
Yeah. And I think even with having a business or like the again a success oriented business, so it's like a book writing and speeches and all these other things, which like it's so much of there was so much time broadcasting good things about my life. I am giving a speech. I mean, somebody respected me enough to give me the microphone, or I'm doing this, doing that, like all of these things. I could understand how it's obnoxious, and I could also understand how. For some people, it's like, hey, like some people might know about whatever my highlights or whatever, and I may not know about them, and I think that's kind of like
rude too.
Yeah, it's like, oh, something
but then
about
it's
me.
like if you do know things about other people, don't you feel kind of creepy?
Like,
I feel creepy.
Like you're ghost following them. And
yeah,
like you're kind of like cyber
stalking
them.
their life. Yeah, like. But it's funny because, like, I'll hang out with my friends from, like, high school, and they'll be like, oh, did you hear that so-and-so got married? Or whatever, like, that they're having a kid. And then I'm like, yeah, like, I saw it on Facebook or, I saw it on Instagram or whatever. But it's like, do they know I got married? But that's just me.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. I think I have a lot of shame there with, like, getting married and, like, there was a cap that we could put on our wedding list, and it was like 250 people, and then every 10 people was like whatever $500 more, and then my father-in-law was helping us out with the venue. All of that to say is like, then it ended up being like we could only invite people, or we only were gonna invite people that we both knew, and that was like easily the 250 people that we were inviting. It was tough. It was very, very tough, very, very tough. And I felt like there's shame that I felt like not being able to invite more people that didn't know us, our high school friends or college friends and all these and all that. So,
yep.
Which, again, as adults, people understand and go, like, nobody brings up, oh, you didn't invite me to your wedding. Nobody brings that up, right?
Yeah.
Like, maybe one person in all of my contacts actually tells me to my face that they weren't invited to my wedding. It was a friend's mom. It was a tough one because she asked him if she's invited, she could come, and it was like, no. Going back, I probably would have said yes, let's come, and then, but.
Well, they say only like 70% of people actually show up.
Which valid, but you're like scared that everybody comes and then whatever.
Yeah.
Big old bill. All right, we got 1 minute. Closing words. Maybe we could use this question, number 16, which is what books or music or movies had the greatest impact on you? Maybe that'll be our close. Would you like to go first? A book, movie, or a music or a song that had an impact on you? I already got one.
You go. I don't know.
Okay. This is Brad Paisley country song. It's called Then, Then.
Are you playing it right now?
I'm pretty sure I guess it wouldn't really matter. It's like, no, I'm not playing it.
Oh, okay.
But I was gonna explain it to you.
Oh, okay.
You know the song?
No, what did you say?
Brad Paisley. It's called Then.
No.
Okay, so the song, what he's saying is, he's singing to his wife, and he's saying like he's reflecting on the relationship when they first met, or when they became boyfriend and girlfriend. He's like, oh, like when they said I love you for the first time or whatever, and it's like, I thought at that point in time, that's when I thought that I loved you, but it's like, then you get married, and you're seeing her walk down the aisle, and then you're like, oh, like I thought I loved you then, and then it's she got pregnant, became the mother of his child. Then it's like, oh, I thought I loved you then, because it was like, it wasn't, again, we're boyfriend and girlfriend. It wasn't, we're married. Now we're married with a kid. And then it's like, hey, when we're old and gray, and then he realizes he's always going to think that. He's always going to point to a time in the past and go, I thought I loved you then. So I relate to that with my wife. I relate to that with my son. Like, I think I love him now. I thought I loved them, to the max. But then like you just see a depth and a dimensions that open up in life that make you go, oh, like I think whatever love I thought about before, it was so much bigger, so much deeper, so much more intricate, more nuanced than I could have imagined. So that's why I like the song.
Wow.
I'll play it after we're done here.
Okay. I can't really think too much. I feel like impact, like.
I suppose you could add show, because shows are more
Yeah,
popular in your era.
yeah, in
You're
my-
like
my thing.
SpongeBob.
Oh yeah, SpongeBob had a big impact on my life. No, I would say probably. Let's see. One of my favorite shows, obviously, is Grey's Anatomy. I've been watching it since I was little, before it was a thing. But yeah, so I've seen it so many times all the way through. I feel like, it has a lot of metaphors. I feel like Shonda Rhimes is real big on like metaphors and like, putting things in perspective, and like you see how people react to things. I feel like that's had a big impact on like how I relay things to each other. Like I connect dots quickly. Jeremy gets so annoyed like when I'm guessing like what's going to happen in the movies. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that I've seen that show so many times all the way through that now, like when I go back, I can see the way that their behavior ties into like the overall like message of that episode. So it's like now in my day-to-day life or in other movies, I can see how specific producers, or whatever directors, like will be doing certain things to set up other things, then I like, it's the same thing like in my day-to-day life. Like I can see how certain behaviors mean somebody is feeling some type of way about something else also. So I think that has played a big impact. Maybe not specifically because of Shonda Rhimes is such an amazing, writer and but like, not that I don't think she is. Like obviously I like her work, but I do think that repeatedly watching it has made me more in tune with other people's emotions.
I do find myself wired in a similar way. Like if somebody, if somebody is getting their wallet to go to work, and then their license is left on the table, and then it's in a show, and then the camera goes to it, it's like, oh, that's gonna play somehow.
Yeah.
It might be 3 episodes from now, but it's gonna be relevant.
Yeah,
somehow, 'cause
later.
the camera wouldn't have went there if it wasn't gonna mean something.
Yeah, like
later.
the foreshadowing.
Yeah, but I find myself thinking about all the potential foreshadowing that could be happening right now, like
All the time, yeah.
But it's like it's crazy because for now I try to have fun with it when I'm watching something, and it's like, okay, especially if it's like a murder mystery, like there's only there's only so many characters it could be, and you have to ultimately in your brain accuse everyone, even the person's spouse who was murdered. Okay, you're a suspect, your child's a suspect, everybody's a suspect or whatever, so you're considering everybody, and you also know that the show's not going to reveal it to you too early. So anybody they make look like they're guilty early will not be it, or maybe they will be it because they're trying to
throw you off,
do a little switcheroo. But anybody who's like accused like halfway through a season or toward the end, you know they're probably not going to be it because the writers want you to think it's somebody else before they tell you who it actually is.
It's funny because like Jeremy and I always do like the movie quotes, so we're always quoting movies. We're always doing like movie things, right? So like sometimes we'll be saying something and then I'll be like, oh well, I'll just bring it in later, and then Jeremy will go, she never did bring that in later. It stayed out there and it rusted until we had to throw it away. Like, would say it like right then and there. And I'm like, be quiet.
All right. Next week's episode, we're going to pick up where we left off. And it's going to be, what was your relationship like with your parents and siblings? Which we hit that often enough, but we'll go a little deeper into it. And then one of it is, how did you handle stress and find balance in your life? 19, what experiences or travels had the most profound impact on you? And what do you wish you had known when you were younger that you can share with me? I suppose we're getting through like 3 or 4 of these questions at a time because we went through 14, 15, and some of 16. So maybe I'll limit. I've been saying 10 questions we're gonna get through, and we really get through like a few.
4.
Yeah, 3 or 4. All right, everybody. We'll see you on the next time. Peace.